Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one. He was the fulcrum around which the Force orbited.
I've encountered divergence in the Force.
A divergence, you say?
Located around a person?
A boy. His cells have the highest concentration of midichlorians I have seen in a life form. It is possible he was conceived by the midichlorians.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
Through his actions, he helped end both the Jedi Order and the Sith Order. The ironic thing is, for most of his life, he served as a pawn for one side or another.
Good job.
But what if he had taken things into his own hands? When Anakin figures out Palpatine was the Sith Lord, he had an opportunity to strike him down. Palpatine was even kind of goading him into doing it.
Are you going to kill me?
I would certainly like to.
I know you would. I can feel your anger.
So what if Anakin had done it? What if Anakin had seen through the games Palpatine was trying to play with him and had struck down the Chancellor? Immediately after killing Palpatine, Anakin would have to report to the Jedi Council. While some of the Masters would have disapproved of Anakin's methods of dispatching Palpatine, they would eventually all agree that Palpatine was probably too dangerous to take alive, especially Mace Windu. He definitely would agree with that. The Jedi Council would have no choice but to make Anakin into a Jedi Master. Now, I'm a believer that Anakin was the chosen one. It's the belief that he would bring balance to the Force. The thing is, balance doesn't mean destroying the Sith, but completely destroying both the Jedi and the Sith. These two schools symbolize extreme philosophies that have twisted the very nature of the Force for their own purposes. Luke Skywalker came to understand this, especially after learning more about the ancient Jedi. Darth Plagueis came to learn this after he pushed too hard against the Force and it pushed back. Legends say Anakin Skywalker was a being purely made from the Force, so it was inevitable that he would have a huge influence on it. Spoiler ahead for the last season of Rebels for the next 10 seconds. Just like Kanan's death was inevitable, some things can't be changed. So with all that in mind, what would have happened with Anakin? He was already one of the most talented and respected generals in the Grand Army of the Republic. Becoming a Jedi Master would only increase his leadership role. Instead of just leading a battalion or squadron into battle, Anakin would lead entire campaigns. Despite being promoted to Jedi Master, Anakin would be Anakin still, a person who was very passionate and emotional and had a troubled past. While Palpatine did a good job manipulating Anakin, in truth Anakin was always dangerously close to flirting with the dark side of the Force. Even before he met Palpatine, he oftentimes chose to get into fistfights on Tatooine. His childhood as a slave left him angry and insecure. Anakin had some serious abandonment issues as well. He placed a high value on loyalty and loved the men that served beneath him. It's what made him such an effective and beloved commander. It also didn't hurt that he was an extremely powerful Force user, talented pilot, and loved a good fight. But at the same time, he was impatient, always looking for a quicker way to win, a shortcut to victory. And many times Anakin was blinded by his intense focus to win. More than any other Jedi commander, Anakin was willing to do whatever it took to win. And that troubled some of the other Jedi for good reason. As we discussed in previous videos, the Jedi Order and their philosophy is pretty monastic in nature. It works best when they're isolated from society without temptation and outside stimulus. In a controlled environment, Jediism works. But when the Jedi Order meshes with society, problems begin to emerge, and when they begin serving as combat soldiers and fighting on battlefields for extended periods of time, those problems intensify. And contrary to popular belief, Jedi were ordinary people, just like you and me. They weren't any less susceptible to the stress that combat brings, and Anakin had more than his fair share of issues. But back to that later. The Republic will be in turmoil as an interim Chancellor would have to be elected for the time being. With Palpatine being identified as a Sith Lord, his immediate advisors and all the people in his political faction will be under investigation for potential ties to Count Dooku and the Separatist Alliance. Trust will be at an all-time low amongst the political elite in the Republic. The GAR will need to find a new replacement commander now that Palpatine is gone. While the Jedi Order's ruling council could step in temporarily, there needs to be one executive power in charge. Normally, someone like Yoda and Mace Windu would step into that role, but even they are under suspicion for treason by the general populace and media. After all, they were the leaders of the Jedi Order during Palpatine's rule and closely collaborated with the Chancellor during the Clone Wars. which really leaves us with one individual who is beyond scrutiny and also very qualified for the job, Anakin Skywalker. Aware that his appointment over the more high-ranking Jedi Masters will cause tension, the Republic Senate will create a new position for Anakin, which will officially supersede any obedience he owes to the Council. As we mentioned before in our previous videos where we looked at how the Separatist Alliance would have fared without Palpatine playing both sides, the Separatist Alliance would quickly start gaining an upper hand in the war. Count Dooku, realizing that he is the last Sith Lord, will drastically change his strategy. Instead of creating chaos so that Palpatine can grab more control in the Senate, he'll focus on disabling the JAR and winning the war. The Separatist droid army and navy greatly outnumber the Republic all across the galaxy. The JAR would have to consolidate their forces to hold strongholds, giving huge amounts of territory away to the Separatist Alliance. Faced with severe budgeting issues, the Republic would be on the verge of bankruptcy. Palpatine had solved this problem by nationalizing the banking clans during a hostile takeover he orchestrated in secret, but of course, he's no longer around.
We cede control of the banks to the office of the Chancellor of the Galactic Republic.
The landscape of the war will change dramatically. It's inevitable that civilians will be conscripted into the Republic Army as the clone army becomes more depleted. Anakin Skywalker, realizing that he's fighting a losing battle, will need to focus on limiting the Separatist Army's production capability. He launches several missions against Separatist worlds targeting factories and shipyards. Quickly it becomes apparent the type of Jedi generals Anakin likes to have by his side. The ones who know how to take initiative and are more aggressive and even ruthless at times. During these hard times, Anakin's group of Jedi are the sole source of good news in the Republic. Their daring raids against Separatist production facilities are starting to have effect on the front lines. But as their tactics become more extreme and aggressive, the Jedi Council starts worrying. But they're still powerless to do anything because of the ongoing investigation. During this time, Padme would have her twins, Luke and Leia. She'll have to raise the kids by herself as Anakin will be busier than ever. Having withdrawn from public life and the Senate, Padme will constantly be visiting the Jedi Temple where her children will be trained and tutored. As the Separatist offensive comes to a halt, both sides begin digging in, creating a stalemate. Under Anakin's directives, new cloning facilities are open across the galaxy, and there's even an attempt to shorten the cloning process. On the Separatist side, Count Dooku rushes to finish the Geonosian superweapon to give them an upper hand, but they're missing a key component. According to ancient Sith blueprints, they need a kyber crystal large enough to amplify the weapon's energy. Having been a Jedi, Count Dooku knows one place in the galaxy where such things exist, a loom. The sacred ancient Jedi world is located deep in the unknown region and is unguarded. The Separatist droid army had no trouble taking over the planet and began tearing up the surface for kyber crystals large enough for their superweapon. The Jedi Council urges Anakin to stop the desecration of their sacred world, but Anakin sees the Separatist push towards the Mid-Rim as a higher priority. The Council, sensing something nefarious behind the Separatist takeover of Ilum, launched their own investigation and find out about the Separatist construction of the superweapon. When the news of this discovery reaches Anakin, he finally decides to take action. He launches a Jedi assault team which ends up successfully capturing the structure, and Anakin even defeats Count Dooku in single combat. As the Jedi are celebrating their victory, the Jedi who supported Anakin come to an impasse with the Jedi Council. Anakin sees the Separatist weapon as a shortcut to end the war. The Republic just needs to destroy one Separatist planet and the rest of the Separatist Alliance will surrender. The Jedi Council are horrified by this notion and vote to destroy the weapon. A battle ensues and many Jedi fall as the Jedi Order splits into two. Anakin is ultimately successful in seizing the weapon, and although it pains him, he must now declare all the Jedi who fought against him as enemies of the Republic, thus starting another schism in the Jedi Order. After learning of the slaughter of several Jedi at the hands of Anakin, Padme and the twins leave with the exiled Jedi, including Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. After Anakin uses the Death Star on Geonosis, the Separatists unconditionally surrendered to the Republic. The victory has elevated Anakin to an even higher level of fame and adoration in the Republic's eyes, and there are calls for Anakin to run the Republic as Chancellor. This version of Anakin hasn't suffered the debilitating injuries he received from Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mustafar. He's able to reach his full potential as a Force user, and is without a doubt the most powerful Jedi to ever have lived. But a lot of his powers comes from his emotions, which makes him incompatible with the Jedi Order. Usually individuals like Anakin were kept in the peripherals of the Order, but because Anakin was able to kill Palpatine, he quickly gained power that rivaled the Order, allowing him to be himself. The battle between Anakin's new Jedi and the old Jedi Order will be a confusing one. Both sides will claim to be the true Jedi Order. In the end, losing Padme and the twins will greatly affect Anakin, perhaps even fully turn him to the dark side. As an individual with abandonment issues, Anakin will do whatever it takes to unite his family, and that obsession will consume him. Well guys, that's our theory about what would have happened had Anakin killed Palpatine. The point is, no matter what happens, Anakin would still end up destroying both the Sith Order and most likely the Jedi Order. The prophecy of the Chosen One is unavoidable. Don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook, and a special thanks to all your Patreon supporters out there. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.